her background is nerd.
Darren should have gone to school here instead of Cutter, because you are a devil. I can tell you that right now.
She rolls in like she's a Hollywood movie star now. She's just here for the camera.
I guess I tooted.
No hard-hitting questions here.
Yeah, Shall we talk about my one-sentence resignation?
Welcome back to Season 4. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for 4 years.
4 years.
Of spilling the tea in studio.
Forcing me to be your co-host.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
other duties is assigned.
That's right. And we got some exciting things coming up this year. We'll announce them later, but we got some pretty good podcasts that we're excited about. Got a new logo coming out. So, yeah. We got that going.
I know.
So.
And we haven't been in here in a while, have we?
No, yeah. And the majority, I would say, of our podcasts are going to be on the road, which I love doing, get out and see the kids, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of newness, you're not new to Dawson, but in a new position, Miss Shasta Pentecost, and she's part of a new program, LEA Leads. Do I say that right when I say that?
Local Leads.
Local Leads. Excuse me, Captain.
Captain.
That's her official title. So.
I love it.
Yes.
I love
it. Talk to us a little bit about that. I know the thing that's interesting about that to me, I think it's something that's much needed, obviously, but I think it's a pretty big initiative across the state, right?
It is. So the LEARNS Act actually has about 30 pages focusing on early childhood, and one of the things that it requires is local lead agencies in every county.
This includes everybody. I mean, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but even some of the mom and pop, daycares or what have you, it's making sure everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely. So obviously the reading scores are a big concern in Arkansas, and they have decided that one way that they can help that is to start before kindergarten. So they want quality early childhood from birth to 5. And again, in every setting, whether it's a church preschool, whether it's a home daycare, whether it's an ABC, a Head Start, a EIDT center, but just kind of uniformity across. They've kind of defined what quality looks like, and then our job as the local lead is to visit those centers, all come to the table. I think one of the most exciting things that we've done is I started in Cohort 1 was just Clark County. So that's Arkadelphia, Gurdon, and Center Point school districts. And we had all the early childhood providers at a meeting. And it was the first time that all of these providers have been in the same room.
Yeah.
And some of those places were open when I was in early childhood. And they were very excited for their voices to actually be heard, because they were able to share their concerns with me. They were able to see that everyone in this field has some of the same struggles. And then for me to be able to take those back and say, hey, here's what we need in Clark County. And the other exciting thing is that it is specific to a community. Because our community, the Clark County community, may be totally different than a different community.
Yeah.
And so it's very specific for that county, and which makes it, unique, that it's not just straight across the board, but very specific in what they do.
Yeah, and one of the other early, I guess maybe outcomes might be the way to say that, but it is the uniformity in how everybody's evaluated now.
Yes.
Whereas before, you may have had a couple different systems in place, and it made it difficult. Let's just say speaking for us, ABC may have been with DHS, and somebody else may didn't have to follow those guidelines. But that consistency, I think that's going to be a great thing.
It is, because in the past, that was another thing, that it called for one assessment system to be used statewide, birth to 5. And the two biggest ones that we had used in the past were ECHRS, which is the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale, and then CLASS, which is the Class Assessment Scoring System. And federally funded programs use CLASS, where state-funded or DHS-funded used ECHRS. Well, now they looked at both things and decided that CLASS was measured more of children's outcomes, whereas ECHRS actually looked at things like the chairs were too tall, or the playground wasn't close enough to the facility. So with class, there's one system. We've all been trained as observers to go out and train the teachers to do the observations. It just kind of, again, makes it uniform across the board. And expectations, everybody knows kind of the expectations and knows,
Right.
What is expected of them. They're also looking at narrowing down curriculums. In the past, they've had a big list of approved curriculums, and some of them were better than others, as always, but they've really started focusing on those that are more learning-based with, literacy and math and those things that can really help with schools' achievement.
I love that too, because if you have the private daycares, and let's say you have someone that's keeping 7 kids or whatever, they have the resources and the curriculum, and they can, because they do work with the kids, but this will help them be even
Absolutely.
more prepared for kindergarten.
Yes, and that's, too, because those places that are, smaller, they're just as welcome to the table as any,
Right.
And a Head Start or an ABC
Right.
that has that. And they've never really had that funding before. I know I've been talking to them about, I'm like, when I go visit the centers, what's your biggest need? And if we have that resource, I can help get that.
Yep.
And they're just so excited to actually have somebody come into their place and saying, hey, we care about you, we care about your kids and your families. What can we do? And then also sharing resources to families.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff out there that families just don't know about. And so being able to share those resources is big. And I think across the state, one of our first tasks that we had to do is what we call a child count. And every student or child, birth to 5, who is in a publicly funded seat, whether it's ABC, Head Start, vouchers, we counted those. And it was like the first time there'd ever been an unduplicated count. Because some kids get Head Start, some kids get ABC.
Yeah.
So this was the first time statewide that they did that. And then they compared that with how many kids are in free and reduced lunch, K-12, to kind of get an average number of students. And we found in Clark County, I can speak to that exactly, that while we have about 96% of 4th-year-olds in programs, there's 10% of infants. And so there's a huge gap, and it's across the state that there's not a lot of childcare for infants 1s and 2s.
Right.
3 and 4-year-olds are covered pretty well, which is great, but the earlier we can start with some of those things, you know.
Yeah, and I think, I've heard some talk about that emphasis, like you're saying, even the birth to 3 area is, you can never start them early enough.
Exactly.
And whether that just be like with the socialization of other kids, that kind of stuff. But, really and truly, in order for us to really get where we need to be as a state academically, again, starting the early, and that's the thing. There's a balance in there. I mean, we want kids to be kids, but we also want them, to prepare them as best we can, academically as well. And then I guess the other thing we didn't talk about, though, was round 2.
Yes, round 2. So cohort 1 was kind of January to May, and then cohort 2 came about, and we added Hot Spring, Pike, and Grant County to our area. And I've been visiting those centers. The school's getting started. They're really excited. Cohort 3 is actually coming out. A director's memo came out last week about, if anyone's interested in applying. I think there's about 10 to 12 counties that aren't covered yet. And by the end of this year, even in December, all counties will have a local lead agency and a captain.
Right.
And
Captain Shasta.
That's right. Yeah.
so it's really good.
Yeah, and I think, one of the biggest benefits, like you said, is bringing everybody to the table. There's always been such a positive in sharing your strengths and weaknesses and knowing, you're not the only person dealing with X, Y, or Z. And, just having that open conversation. Hey, this has happened to me, and this is how I dealt with it. Not saying it's the best way or the right way, but it worked for us. And getting those kinds of conversations started can't do anything, I think, but help everybody involved. So what made you interested in this position? Because, you're doing a great job for us. It's pre-K. And then when you heard about the program, you came and said, hey, this is something I think I'd be interested in. And and why was that?
Okay, so my background has always kind of been mental health. And, kind of like I say, the cheerleader or the encourager of things. And so when this came out, I thought, I love early childhood. I know how important it is. And if I can be out in all of the schools in the counties, encouraging them, cheering them on, and supporting families. I love, helping the families and helping, strengthen the, teachers. And just, I see a lot in the schools that morale is such a big concern in education.
Yeah.
And especially in, early childhood education, because, again, a lot of these people in these areas that, they're minimum wage jobs, and I want them to know how important they are and what they do every day, and just being able to go and just encourage and promote them and share how important early childhood is, because we've known that, and it's almost like now it's getting that that voice.
Yeah, in all honesty, it's a lot about what drew me to the co-op to begin with, is just the ability to affect more kids.
Yes.
And the ability to work with more parents and making sure all kids are going to be successful. And at the end of the day, that's what co-ops do. But, I mean, this is a great extension of that. And I feel like we're positioned, as a co-op to really be able to bring that to the table.
Yeah, because, these kids are coming into our public schools.
Right.
So, like, the earlier we can start and the, more, support we can give from that age, it's only going to strengthen our K-12 schools.
Did anything surprise you when you started looking at, when you first got into it and looked at the statistics and stuff?
I think that the amount of childcare for younger kids surprised me. I knew there were not as many options, but I had no idea how, hard it was. And I know that industries, and people in the workforce, if there's not a place for kids to go, it affects so much of the community. And so that was surprising to me. I was also a little nervous about the fact when we started bringing everybody together, because these are businesses, and I didn't know if they saw each other as a competition, because but they did not. That was just my own anxiety about that, because there's plenty of kids. There's plenty of kids to go everywhere, and they were very excited, and they understand that everybody is different places are a better fit for a family. It might be because of the hours. It might be because of the cost. It might be this. So there's room for everyone. And so I was pleasantly surprised about that, excited about it.
And I think this program does a good job of levelizing the playing field for all child care, because I mean, let's be real. Some are probably positioned to do better than others, but now again with these conversations and some of the materials and those kinds of things that's available to everybody, because again, some of these smaller ones probably didn't know what was out there.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest resources that I've seen that I've been able to help with is some of these smaller centers. When I go and say, hey, what needs do you have? And they said, if we could have some books in Spanish. Because they said, we have a lending library and we send books home with families, and we have a huge Hispanic population, and we don't have, and I said, I've got this, because we we order a lot of books. So I called and I said, hey, what can you give me, that's, and they send them to me, and when you take it, I mean, that's the best part of my job, when I take something and I'm like, here you go, and they are, I mean,
so appreciative.
Appreciative of anything and everything that they get.
That's awesome.
Well, and like I said, I just think it's a great program, and again, the ability to bring your peers in and have open and honest conversation. I mean, it's a win-win across the board, in my opinion. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as, I mean, you've been doing this, what, a little over a year now, right at?
Right at,
Yeah. So, I mean, what have you learned in that short time? Because I know it's been it's kind of, as they say, building the airplane as you're flying kind of thing.
Yes, I was very glad to be able for our first cohort to be Clark County, because that's my home county.
Sure.
Grew up here, pretty much know
the area
everybody, and so they were kind of my guinea pigs, and I learned a lot there, the best way to approach and those kind of things. And then now that I've started venturing out to the other counties, I think relationships are the most important thing,
Sure.
which I've always known that, but just building the relationships with these people. I always try to make sure, I don't come with like a notebook and a piece of paper because I don't want
Right.
them to think I'm coming to,
Right. Write them up.
to write them
Yeah.
up or look for their,
Right.
those things. So just come to visit, and it's just been great to step out of Clark County too to see,
Right.
What's
Yeah,
out
and
there.
It's just neat too because you can take things that you may see at one place and say, "Hey, they tried this over here. You might want to try this."
Absolutely.
And just to
And,
share.
and I would venture a guess. I mean, probably not a whole lot of difference when you get right down to it in
Not a
what folks are doing, right? So,
Not a lot. They all have the same struggles. Staffing is huge for
Oh, yeah.
everyone.
yeah,
Keeping people, getting them to come to work. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
deal with that with Candace. Oof.
I know, just
and then
calling
some,
all
yeah,
the time, don't I?
some behavior things. And I've been
Candace.
exactly.
I want a behavior plan.
Yeah, yeah,
I
we're
can
gonna have to we're gonna have to revisit that, by the way.
But that too, that they have questions about behavior, and because before ABC I was behavior specialist, so I can say, hey, well, how about trying these things? So I
Right.
can kind of use
That's good.
Yeah,
the different hats I've worn throughout
Yep.
the
Yeah.
centers.
That's awesome.
it's I say funny, but I mean, obviously it's God's plan in action. But we're close in age. Not that you're as old as I am, but what I'm saying is, we're at a
None of
point in
us
our
are.
life where we can walk through and see, all these experiences that we have had have led us down this path to where we are. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat place to be. So let's talk about how about a short-term goal for you in this position, and then maybe an ultimate long-term goal for you.
Okay, so my short-term goal is basically creating resources for parents, like a one-stop shop. So I've started in Clark County. I'm still ironing out, but like a one-pager of all the facilities that are in town,
Right.
kind of what ages they do.
That's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
It really is. And then
Very
so the
beneficial.
parents can say, hey, okay, when I start looking, here are all my options. And just getting that information to parents and out there. Kind of my long-term goal is I've kind of gotten on this soapbox lately about reading books to kids.
Right.
I heard that a study was done about these infants and toddlers, that they were given a board book, and the infants, when they saw it, they started swiping the outside, trying to change the picture. And the toddlers, they could turn the pages, but they would put their fingers together trying to make the pictures bigger. And that broke my heart.
Wow.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And so in all of this work, I want to give resources to parents about the importance of reading a book, not
Yeah.
on a screen,
Yeah.
Right.
not but in your lap reading a book. So I have for the parents that in Clark County, and I hope to start in the other counties, but the new parents, I've gotten them a little bag with some board books, Goodnight
Yeah.
Moon and
Yeah.
Brown Bear that
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
knows, and just talk about some of the statistics of books
Right.
and why they're important from day one
Yeah.
on up, and to tell preschools too, because I know they are busy, and I know they're doing all the day-to-day things that I think sometimes they forget to just sit down with kids and read books. to
Yeah.
them. So
I know, even as a teacher, like having Sarah when she was little, I would have to be like, okay, we're reading every night, like
Yes.
right before bed, let's
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
a book. But, I had to be intentional about it, or I wouldn't have done it.
Well, as educators, when it comes to gift giving, we are those people. Everybody else is throwing toys at them, and may get a toy, but you're going to get 6 books to go with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're known for sure.
Exactly.
But and that's the reason, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. I think the whole premise of that is just exposing kids to books.
Absolutely.
And the only way you get better at reading is to learn to read and continue to read.
Yeah, and we actually had an event in Garden where the representatives from Dolly Parton Library came and signed up any kids for that program.
Yeah,
Because it is,
yeah.
again, that's
Awesome.
getting books into the parents' hands. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my long-term goal, is that as sharing information with parents, making it easier, the process of, hey, I have a child here, where's the best place for them to go? And then, of course, just stressing the importance of literacy. And
Well, and the other thing I think that I've noticed about it, and again, I'm, not near as close to the flame as you are, but it's just, the coming together across the state. With Zoom, it makes it pretty easy. But again, I think having those conversations of what's working, what's not working, at a state level, I mean, again, I see that, just being a tremendous benefit, for the little ones for sure. And so I say I'm excited about the program and where it's going,
Me too.
selfishly, for, our pre-Ks and that kind of thing. But again, I think it's one of these things that just enhances everybody at the table. So,
Absolutely. And the districts have been very excited about it. I met with Sheridan School District yesterday and talked to them about, here's some things that we can do. Here's some, ideas we have. And it's been welcome everywhere I've been. So,
Good.
so who was your biggest influence as far as, getting into education, counseling, teaching, otherwise?
So I didn't plan on going into education
Right.
when I started. I was going to do physical therapy, and so went to UCA to do physical therapy, and science was not for me. So I started looking at some, possibly different things, and I had a pretty traumatic experience happen, and I'd actually gone to a mental health counselor.
Right.
And at that point, I saw, what benefits that is and how important it is, and
Right.
how, before, even back then and still now, the stigma of that.
Yeah.
And I immediately was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I did the education route, too, because I wanted to do school counseling, because I still wanted
Yeah.
to do that. And then, but I got duly certified, so school and licensed. So I have a licensed professional counselor, which I hope to do, at the end of my career, after my school years, to kind of do more of the private practice, just to help families.
So
Retirement goal. There
she's
she
putting
is.
that out there. So when you go in there for counseling, she's fixing to start the clock on you.
I would totally go
You
to
know,
Shasta.
oh, I know you will.
counseling.
I know
She's
you
pro-
do.
She probably has listened to me like a
That's
zillion
what I'm
times.
saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to start
We
paying the
listen
poor
to
lady,
each
is what
other.
I'm
It's okay.
saying, So, but yeah. Well, that's, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because social and emotional is a very hot topic again, which I don't disagree with that. I mean, kids, I think there's less and less of a stigma. But with that being said, I don't know that the resources have caught up with the need yet.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that we're all, constantly thinking about. I was talking to a principal just this morning, and we were talking about he, had a situation, but he said, the online stuff, he said, I need that eye to eye where they can be in the room and feel the sincerity of the person.
Yeah.
And but again, I think as time goes on, we're going to need more and more of that, not less and less.
Absolutely. And when we go back to kind of the class, the assessment system, one of the biggest thing it looks at is interactions between kids and teachers. And I think now with COVID, those kids who, considered the COVID kids, those interactions weren't there.
Right,
And even as our interactions have gotten less,
right.
because of whether it's through text
Technology.
or whether it's
Yeah.
through,
Zoom,
Zoom or
yeah.
those kind of things. And
Yeah.
so now it's telling teachers, those interactions of face-to-face body language, talk, and that's what's important. And that's
Yeah.
what's going to build.
And I find that such an interesting topic with the novice or the new teachers now talking about these quote unquote COVID kids. But I mean, it's no different than when we all got started, when we were talking about these kids that grew up with a computer or a device, right? And it's just the next way. But at the end of the day, you said something earlier, and it's all about the relationship.
Absolutely.
Kids are kids, we know that. And I mean, kindness, love, and patience are the things that that win through, obviously. But there are days, if you stay in this business long enough, those are out the window.
Occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally. So,
I mean,
but
and then
yeah,
you're like, oh.
the real,
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
they say,
you have to
for
be
sure.
intentional about it for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
sometimes it's easy to forget that's kind of,
Right.
That's
Right.
how I have to intentionally tell myself, be nice to Darren.
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Just be nice to Darren.
And I'm still waiting on that day to happen. I don't know when it's coming,
Whatever.
but she keeps telling me it's coming, so
It's
we'll
fine.
see.
We need to talk about his water bottle.
That's right. What you talking about my super juice there? That's power stuff.
What's
right
in
there.
that? What is that? Pineapple? Because
Yeah.
it looks like.
No, it's
you know what it looks
it's
like.
blueberry tea. What it looks like.
Blueberry tea.
That's what it's actually. Yeah, it's blueberry lemonade, I guess, is what it is. But
Okay,
yeah.
well, there's no blue in it.
I don't know what to tell you. That's just what the label says. So
Well, we know what it looks like
it looks like a refreshing beverage to me. I don't know what you're thinking about. Oh Lord, the things I got to put up with.
every day.
So all right. I know you're a big bucket list person. This past year, you got to check off going to the Kentucky Derby.
did.
So what's next?
Y'all were so cute.
Yeah,
too.
thank you. Next, I want to do the College World Series.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
my next bucket list.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it would just I've heard the atmosphere and just,
Yeah.
you know,
You got to see it on TV, but yeah.
yeah, to be there is different. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Right. So and another new thing for you is a grandmother. What's that like?
Fantastic.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's, I told somebody, I didn't think I was going to be one of those grandmas, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's still new. He's almost 2 months, but it's like the neatest part of it is it's like you get to enjoy the things that you didn't get to enjoy as the mom because you were
Right.
worried and you were having to do
Right.
this
Yeah.
and you were having to do that
Discipline,
and you
yeah.
were so tired and that. And so I just get to enjoy those moments and
Yeah.
sit and hold him the whole time he's there.
Yeah.
And then, pass him on. And so it's great.
So what is your grandmother name?
Sassy.
Sassy. I like
Love
that.
it.
Yeah, I
Sassy
like
is
that.
so
Yeah.
cute.
It fits you pretty well too.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't want to be
Sass and frass.
the
Yeah,
typical,
that's right.
the typical grandma name.
That's
so
right.
I went
Yeah.
with Sassy.
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
sassy.
Grandma is pretty much. I mean, I'm waiting on it to come back around, like some of these old names, like Hazel and
Yeah.
names of that.
Yeah, when we were growing up, I don't know, my mom's a Yankee. I don't know if it's kind of a Yankee thing, but we had Grandma Dry and Grandma Hedges, and that's
Yeah.
what we called them.
Yeah.
They didn't have names.
Right. Yeah.
Great Grandma Dry and Great Grandma
Yeah,
Hedges.
that's right.
And,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we called them.
Now
but-
you got Gigi Gaga.
Yeah.
It's all
Sassy.
Sassy. I like
all over the
sassy. That's
place.
so cute.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super cute. Super cute.
Yeah. So, and again, if people are interested, right, and
Yes.
not only Clark County but surrounding counties,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a early childhood need, or they just need information about it. Period. How can they get in contact?
So there is, on the AD website, there's a whole
Mm.
section on local leads that tells contact information for your
Mm-hmm.
local league captain, gives information there, and you can reach out there to your captain, and they will
Yeah.
get that. There's provider meetings that are held often between the providers, so be looking for those so that you can
All right.
attend. And
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome. So, well, we appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
today and
Thank
telling
you
us
for
more
having
about
me.
it. Yeah, and
Kicking off season 4.
and doing the good stuff that you do with the little ones, because again, I think it's so important. But I gotta, if she's going to be captain, I got to figure out a name for you.
yeah,
Hmm.
I'm the captain.
Yeah, I'll figure out something. So
I don't know.
yeah, we'll get there. And speaking of years, this is year 29 rolling in there for us. How many you got in?
24.
24.
She's
yeah.
right behind us.
Yeah, yeah,
29.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I
Yeah.
just can't even
yeah.
I can't even process that.
And it's crazy how quick it's going by, right?
Yeah,
And I was thinking the other day, some of this stuff, in education, it's not unlike, other professions out there. Things come and go, and they come and go again, but some of the tried and true things, literacy, math, those have always been the focus, and they need to be. But I think about some of these ancillary things that have come and gone, and when we were in school, I heard this brought up again the other day, was character education. Teaching people how to be good people, whereas we got I'd safe to say we all got that at home, right? And so, but it's not that way anymore.
No.
And some of it is a societal thing. I get it. Mom and dad both have to work, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it truly does take a village to to raise these folks today. But it's just been interesting.
I know.
As I date myself. a
Listen,
couple of
I
times.
was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about how the phone shut down, people freak out. You know,
Yeah,
Sarah
yeah.
about lost it. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then I'm thinking, gosh, that makes me feel so old
Yeah.
because we're like, well, I mean, we lived like how
Yeah.
many years without
Well,
cell
heck,
phones,
I
without
remember
technology?
I remember writing with the jumbo pencils
Yeah.
before it was like a novelty item
Yeah.
at Cracker Barrel. I mean, it was something that was on the list, right? Yeah, the class list.
I did when I started teaching. I did have a dry erase board. I did
Yeah.
have at Malvern a dry erase board and a chalkboard. So,
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a chalkboard.
but then we moved
Yeah.
the chalkboards out pretty quick. So I was like, I'm not that old, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we did have dry erase boards. I don't know that they even.
Good times.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're dating ourselves.
Well,
It's terrible.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming in,
Yes.
helping us kick off season 4. Again, this is going to be an exciting season.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some big things planned. Again, on the road to several different places, and another emphasis for us this year is going to be highlighting more kids. I hope
Yeah.
they've got some good things going on. I was at a district today, and they've actually got a group that's wanting to start a podcast, and I know we've got 1 or 2 districts that already have a podcast. So I'm anxious to get out and podcast on podcast, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, it's not that difficult. If we can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
If Candace can do it,
I know.
for sure anybody can do
Hey,
it. right?
that's the absolute truth.
That's right.
You know, I just sit over here and listen and
Yeah.
throw in a couple things every now and then.
Yeah.
Make fun of Darren.
Yeah.
It works out.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, it does for the most part. So.
But I'm the entertainment. You're the serious one.
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. That's me, Mr. Serious. That's
Well, you are on the
yeah,
podcast.
for sure,
I'm like,
for
where
sure.
does this come
yeah,
from?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a gift. That
I guess.
some would
Turn it
say-
on and off real
Hey,
easily.
some would say, but anyway. But thanks for coming in,
Yeah,
and
enjoyed it,
this
Shasta.
will wrap the first, episode of season 4. And tune in next time for Spilling the Tea in Studio D.